Welcome to the official Stun It All build guide. This build can stun every single boss in the whole...
Almost every boss in the game.
This means that the bosses won't be able to move or attack, trivializing most of the boss fights. This build works great for both solo and party players, and it's fairly cheap to put together. My name is Chilifreak.
And I'm Crispy.
In this video, we'll teach you how to stun it all. For a faster paced montage on this build, please check out our previous video first. Let's start by talking about what a stun is. When a monster receives a hit that removes a large portion of its life, there's a chance for it to be stunned, making it unable to move or attack the player for the whole duration of the stun. So what affects the stun chance? By default, you have a 100% chance to stun an enemy when you remove 50% of its health pool in one hit. In other words, we get 2% extra chance to stun for every 1% of the enemy's life pool you remove per hit. But sadly, if your stun chance is below 20%, your stun chance will be counted as 0%, meaning that in order to even have a chance to stun an enemy, you need to deliver at least 10% of its life per hit by default. Of course, we don't have to play by the default rules. Thanks to the mod known as Reduced Enemy Stun Threshold, we can lower the amount of damage required to stun, hence increasing our stun chance. You could say we tricked the game into believing our enemy has a lower life pool than it actually has. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Up to 75%, the game will believe that for every percent reduced stun threshold, the enemy has 1% less life when calculating the stun chance, as seen in the formula. However, above 75%, a different equation applies, making it impossible to make the game believe that the monster has 0 life. That being said, it's still worth the extra investment to acquire reduced enemy stun threshold above 75%.
Another way to affect our stun is increased stun duration. The default duration is 0.35 seconds. But this build increases that value by 210%, giving us a duration of 1.1 seconds. Important note is that this mode is not as crucial as reduced stun threshold. If we don't stun, your duration investment will be all gone. We get a reduced stun threshold and increased stun duration for the stun support gem and our gear, such as our quiver, belt and gloves. We also get some from our passive tree. Now you might wonder, how do we deal enough damage to stun? And with a shitty quiver? The answer is face breakers.
These well-known unique gloves gives us up to a whopping 800% more unarmed damage, and a quiver doesn't count as a weapon. For face breakers to deal damage, we need to get base physical damage on our helmet, amulet, and rings. This gives a total of 117 base physical damage. With a perfect roll face breaker, this equals 1057 average base damage. Good luck finding a weapon like that! Our damage skill of choice will be Ancestral Warchief. Let's talk about gear. Starting with the helmet. We use an Abyssus unique helmet for one reason only. Added 40 to 60 base physical damage to Fesa Breca. Just remember to get as low roll as possible on the increased physical damage taken mod. Insert cast when damage taken, Immortal Call, increased duration for defense, and also Val Lightning Trap, which is only needed for stunning Guardians and Shaper. On the amulet, make sure to get as much physical damage as possible. Life and resistance is also good to have. You might also need to compensate for missing dexterity. We don't have any weapons, but we use a quiver in our offhand, Cragfall. It gives us a maximum of 25% reduced stun threshold, 80% increased stun duration, and a 50% chance to double your stun duration. We're talking about going from 1.1 seconds to 2.2 seconds for one stun. Try to get as close as you can to a perfect roll. Cragfall can be acquired by upgrading Craghead by completing the Heavy Blows prophecy.
The most important thing when it comes to our chest is that it has 6 links. Any rare will do, just make sure to get as much life and resistances as possible, and compensate for any missing dexterity. A very expensive upgrade of our choice would be a 6th link Belly of the Beast. Insert Ancestral War Chief linked to faster attacks, melee physical damage on full life, and stun. Stun support is a must due to the 49% reduced enemy stun threshold, together with a 30% increased stun duration you get of a quality version. Our last link is increased area of effect for clearing and concentrate effect on high life bosses. The rings we use are the Warden's brand. You need to get as high fist roll as possible for maximum damage per hit. Their downside is the slow attack speed, which doesn't affect the boss fights negatively, but slows down the clear speed overall. You can however use 2 steel rings crafted with Deafening Essence of Contempt for faster map clearing. The gloves we use are face breakers for the insane damage, compatibility with Quiver, and reduced stun threshold. Try to get at least 780% more unarmed physical damage. You have 2 gem setups to choose from here. For maximum stun, use Warlord's Mark with Orb of Storm and Curse on hit. For movement, use Lightning Warp link to reduce duration and faster casting. Last link can be Flame Golem. You can switch in between the setups as much as you want, as the color sockets are the same. Our belt will be the physical version of Doriani's Invitation. We use this belt for the 25% reduced stun threshold when using a flask. This is higher than any rare belt in the game could offer. Make sure to get enough physical damage and resistance for your needs.
Now, the boots we're going to use are rare, with as high resists, life, and preferably movement speed as possible. You might also need to compensate for missing dexterity. Insert Hatred, Herald of Ash, Enduring Cry, and Increased Duration. The auras are for damage boosting, and Enduring Cry synergizes well with cast when damage taken Immortal Call, as it gives us endurance charges. Let's briefly talk about flasks. Our defensive flasks are Quicksilver Potion and Divine Life Flask with bleed immunity. An alternative to the Divine Flask to instead boost damage would be Silver Flask. When it comes to our damage boosting flasks, those are only needed for stunning Guardians and Shaper in combination with a Necromancer Aura support. We use Atsiri's Promise, Taste of Hate, Lion's Roar. Try to get as high rolls as your wallet allows. Let's move on to the skill tree. For our Ascendancy class, we'll use, you guessed it, Berserker. We get Aspect of Carnage for its incredible damage boost. Warbringer synergizes really well with Enduring Cry, making us able to use it twice as often, and also healing us 25% of our max life on use. Rite of Ruin gives us 25% increased attack speed, as we leave all the dirty work to our totems.
For our passive tree, we must get stun nodes, which can be found over here. We also need to take the key nodes Ancestral Bond for another totem and Resolute Technique to never miss. As you might have guessed, we want to get as much damage as possible for our stuns. With Face Breakers, totem damage works, melee physical damage works, area damage works, but physical damage with weapons? No.
Aren't you even gonna explain why?
No.
For the rest of the tree, life. Lots and lots of life. After all, we are an ES based, are we? GGG. We also take 5 jewel slots. These are really important because we need life. Also, we need to compensate for the insane lack of resist on our gear, so get resist on them all.
When it comes to the bandits, we'll save Oaken Normal for life, and save Oaken Cruel for the physical damage, and kill all the bandits in Merciless to get the passive point.
We want to end this guide by briefly touching on the subject of stunning Tier 16 Guardians and Tier 17 Shaper. There is a huge gap between stunning Tier 15 bosses and stunning Tier 16 and above. Therefore, we add a lot of mechanics to reach this goal. This is something you cannot achieve reliably on your own. You will need a Necromancer Aura support for this. We also mentioned today that you will need to use the damage flasks. On top of that, you will need to use the Val Lightning Trap to shock and make your totems deal 50% more damage. Orb of Storms with Warlord's Mark Curse on hit makes the permastun more reliable, as it adds a flat chance to stun on top of your stun chance. Using Concentrated Effect is of course a must. These things are by themselves a lot to think about in the middle of a boss fight. On top of that, you need specific strategies for every boss to counter its mechanics. This will be covered in our upcoming video. As we've already mentioned, this build works excellent in full parties, preferably but not necessarily with a Necro Aura support. Instead of causing lagging for the party, you cause lagging for the bosses. Important to mention is that the exact same stun chance is applied to monsters as in solo play, despite the increased monster life that comes with every additional party member. Enjoy, before the nerf hammer hits.